Hi everyone, I'm Rosie here with the one and only Anthony DiCecco. Welcome back to Confessions of a Reluctant Tennis Pro. And as promised, this week, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Now, after getting to know you a little bit, Anthony, we've kind of ascertained that you have a bit of a rebellious nature and, nothing malicious. You kind of just participated in what most people would call innocent pranks. But as you got older and turned 18, now you were a legal adult, so some of these things that were just kind of fun became legitimate legal issues. How did you handle that?
Well, I do remember my mother, because for a long time, I just thought it was other people's problems and they were picking on me and I was being victimized and this kind of stuff. But my mom said, you know what? In almost every one of these stories you tell us, there's one common denominator. And I'll be like, okay, I guess at some point I have to look in the mirror. But, at the beginning, it was just all fun and games. And it's just that I don't think I realized when it became serious that it was serious. I still sort of thought of it as fun and games, but you're right. When you become 18, they look at you a lot differently. And
now you're accountable.
Yeah, legally. And,
right.
And so I remember I used to hang around this older kid, Tony Caridi, and I was driving his car. He had a Mustang, and we drove to the beach. And we must have made, I think we went north on the Parkway and missed the Atlantic City Expressway to come home. And we got to the point where we were pretty low on gas, lost. And this is a time when you would pull out a map or something or ask for directions. It wasn't like, you just put Waze in. And so we stopped at a gas station. I gave him $5. We didn't have much money left. I gave him $5 and told him to put it inside because we didn't put a credit card in at the time for gas. And I pumped $5 of gas. He got back in the car. We drove down the street and the cop pulled us over. And I guess he either accidentally or on purpose forgot to give the $5. And so now we were in a little bit of trouble. And
what did he do when he went in the store?
I don't know, he must have bought like a soda or something like that. I mean, we were pretty tired. Maybe we just, but, and it's not really, his fault. I mean, we had some alcohol in the car and it wasn't a good situation.
Uh-oh.
And so I got arrested for, I think that's probably the first time that I got arrested in my life. And
Did they actually put handcuffs on you?
I don't know. I don't remember if they put handcuffs.
That would scare me.
Yeah, I mean, they must. I know later on that happened a few times, so. But they probably did. They had to put handcuffs on, right? Because they put you in a police car, they impound the car, and they took us to Toms River jail and put us in a cell. And I remember, so it's my first experience, and Tony's his first experience too, and he wasn't happy, and he was either crying / screaming. I don't know what he was doing.
Even though he caused the problem, from where I sit.
Well, no, he was.
He didn't pay the money.
Yeah, but I don't really like to blame. Again, I look in the mirror.
But that's what I'm here for.
but he was upset just being in jail, I guess, right?
Of course.
So as I was, but I was keeping quiet about it. And so I remember they put him into this solitary, and had this little door that they closed shut. And then we didn't hear from him again. And then there was another kid in there that had been hiding from the police, and he was hiding in some kind of bushes or something, and he got poison ivy all over his body. And I remember him in there screaming. He was like, "Hey, I got poison ivy, you gotta take care of me," or something like this. So those are the two people I was in jail with, and I was, and they give you a phone call. And of course, most every time, the first call I'd make is to my brother, not my mom and dad, because I didn't want them to know any more than they had to know about what was going on. And my brother and his girlfriend could drive down and pick me up, I figured. And so I called, and I called a swim club that we used to go to, Chester Valley, because I thought that's where he was. And see, again, this is not the time where you have the 360, you can't find people, you don't know what's going on, you're just taking a chance, right? And it's not like that I'm calling a cell phone. So so they couldn't find him, said, you know, then it's another like 4 hours or whatever before you get another call. And I finally got in touch with him, and he showed up, came and picked me up, and you know, I was kind of like,
what do you mean he came to pick you up? Wasn't there like bail or like
well,
what happened to the legal issue?
No, at that point they just give you the citations. It wasn't bail. It wasn't like it wasn't anything like so bad. I mean, I don't know, like it's $5, so it's not grand theft. But so, and I remember screaming, you know, at the guards and stuff at the time, like, you know, they weren't fair. They didn't give me 2 calls or whatever. First one was a wrong number, I don't know. I was just saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And so they slowed down the process, the paperwork. But I did get out, I did go home, and I contacted a lawyer in Westchester because I never had need for a lawyer before. And I contacted a lawyer, and actually I think he's a divorce attorney, so I may have picked the wrong guy, but this guy said, just go to Tom's River, plead guilty, and let it go. And so I went, and I didn't realize Tom's River is like a big, like, it's huge. It's a huge courthouse, and I guess it's like a main hub. And so I went with my parents, and you know, like when you grow up in your yard, you remember it being so big.
Right.
But it's really not that big. Well, I remember this courtroom being so big, I had to walk all the way to the front of it when the judge called my name, and I sat down, I pleaded guilty, and they stamped it down and they sent it back to me, and I had like, you know, theft and like other charges on there. And so, you know, I was like, I don't know if
Wait
this
a minute.
is...
What happened to Tony?
Tony, he went too, but at a different time. His hearing was at a different time. We were separate.
Right.
So he wasn't there at the same time. But he did the same thing. He pleaded guilty. We both pleaded guilty. But I came back, and I remember I was at St. Anthony's swim club, and there was a guy, big 6'4" guy, Mike McShane. I used to play football with his son, Michael, and he was, you know, big into sports. He played volleyball, he played basketball, he did everything, and I just remember him. People said he was an attorney, so I went up to him, introduced myself. I mean, he knew me, but we didn't talk, and he was, you know, big physical presence. It wasn't like, you know, I would walk up to him and say, hey, how you doing? Shoot the bull or whatever. But he looked at my stuff and he said, the first rule we're going to give you is never go to court without a lawyer. So he was able to take care of it and get the, you know, accelerated release program. What they do is they get rid of stuff if it's your first offense. So he was able to take care of all that. And
because otherwise you would have had that on your formal record.
Yeah, it stays on your record, right? And when I did go to coach high school, I did find out it wasn't on my record, so he must have done it. But anyway, so, you know, he did a good job with that. And then as far as like paying him, you know, he knew I didn't have money, so he asked me to teach Michael tennis, and so I started teaching tennis. Actually, that would have been my first formal tennis lessons to pay off the debt to the lawyer. And you know, we didn't know at the time that this would become like a lifelong friendship relationship with Mike McShane. I mean, again, if you want to say silver lining, so I did get in a few scraps with the law. I made a lifelong friend of Mike McShane, and I've learned so much from him. I have so many funny stories from him. So I guess the place to start would be the next year in senior year of high school.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, this obviously you said it was a lifelong friendship, so there was other needs for Mike.
Yeah, we needed him again. And he was on, you know, at that time now, we you know, again, we don't have a cell phone, but I had his home phone.
That was back when everyone memorized phone numbers.
Yeah, you just memorize, right, exactly. And I had his home number memorized because, you know, when I was getting in trouble, it wasn't when he was in the office, you know, it was usually at night or something like that.
So what happened at high school? The principal came to your house or something?
Well, so we had a few problems with school, and it got to the point where I probably was in school 1 year too long in high school because I had so many credits. I didn't need to be there.
How did you get so many credits?
Well, if
Advanced
you take
classes?
the advanced classes,
Okay.
right, you got to the point where you didn't have to take classes, but except for maybe gym, and maybe there was a 4-year, I forget what class, it might have been English, that you had to take four full years. But with the math, I had so much advanced math that I was far ahead.
See, I had to put in all 4 years because I wasn't in those smart classes.
But so I, well, after you hear some of this episode, you might think I don't know how I got into that class either. But so I did about halfway through the year in January, the principal delivered my diploma to my mom at work. And, I never looked at it. I never looked at my diploma. But he said, listen, it would just be better if and Alex came into this equation too, if your kids just didn't come back to school, it would be better. But they allowed us to come to the 2 classes. So with that loophole, that gave us like perfect situation. We could go to school because we wanted to be with our friends, but we didn't have to go to class. All we had to do was go to the 2 classes, and I could still play tennis. So I went through that whole thing, and then.
So did you stay? But were you able to go home after the 2 classes, or did you stay just hanging out in study hall?
They asked us not to stay,
Right.
But we would make up reasons why we had to stay.
Isn't that interesting? When you are told you have to stay, the only thing you want to do is get home and get out of there and cut classes, walk around to the Dairy Queen or the McDonald's or whatever. And now that they're telling you go, you don't have to be here. You're like, oh no, I'm staying.
That's a big lesson, isn't it? Maybe they should try to let people make their own decision about what they want to do, and then maybe you'll get the real thing. But yeah, when they told us that we couldn't hang around, of course we wanted to hang around the school, so we'd be around the school causing trouble, and that was going to end up bad anyway. And at one point, they just decided that they were going to. Well, it started out this way. We had, during this time, we had like some infractions that we didn't follow the rules strictly about when we were supposed to come, when we were supposed to go. So that started to mount.
Okay.
And they decided to say that we couldn't go to the senior prom, that we couldn't go. But they sent that message to my mother too, because again, they couldn't really find us. We were like all over the place. So they sent that message to my mom too, and that we weren't allowed at the prom. And so anyway, we were like, wait a second, we have, and we didn't find out until we tried to buy a ticket. And they said you couldn't buy a ticket because you weren't allowed to go to the prom.
So all this time, you're getting the tux, the girls are getting their
Right.
dresses.
Yeah, we're getting a date, and and the
The
dresses.
corsage.
Yeah, and so we were like, well, we're going to have to go, even if we're not allowed, and without a ticket. And so we showed up, walked up to the front, and the security guard, Donnie Lawrence, he didn't like us too much. Yeah.
I love Donnie.
No, but he liked a lot of people, but he didn't like us too much. But I mean, I remember sneaking into the activity center where you could play ping pong. And I remember him being on the outside without the key. He couldn't get in, and we were like making fun of him. And he'd be like following us around. So I mean, we drove that guy crazy.
Poor Donnie.
Yeah, I know. But he should have liked us, But anyway, so we get to the front door. They're like, you're not allowed in, and call the police. And then we had the girls drive toward Coatesville because the school is right on the line between Coatesville and Cowan Townships. And, brilliant as we were, we thought the Cowan police showed up. If we go across the line, we could tell them go to hell. But so the girls drove away, we left. And then there was some other, like in little things that we did, like I think somebody was smoking a bong or something on the premises, and they got a hold of the bong. So anyway, when the dust clears, they deliver 5 citations to my mother, like criminal trespass, terroristic.
Where was your mother
trespass.
working at the time?
She worked in Westchester
Doing.
as commercial credit. She was a lender, a
Okay.
leasing.
So
leasing.
was there any fallout for her that these people would come in always delivering her
I call my
things?
mom every day at work. I often think about that. I'm like, these people must have been so nice. And you know, the interesting thing, you bring that up, I was at Woodford Country Club last week, and my mother's boss came up from commercial credit. Now, she's passed away. He's like 80. And he came up and he said, "It's Jeff Lindstedt." I'm like, "No." It was my mother's boss. And years later, I played tennis with him.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen him in such a long time. So yeah, I know they were pretty lenient. We did paint a mural on the wall at commercial credit.
Okay.
And so, you know, they kind of liked us, and maybe they let us slide on some of that stuff. But, you know, my mother was the type that they knew with an Italian mother that, you know, she was going to be there for her kids first. And she did such a good job that they weren't going to push her on it. But so they gave her the citations, and we had to go to court. So we had to get McShane to go to court.
Okay, so this is the second big phone call to Mike McShane.
Yeah, I mean, there were other, you know, meetings in his office where he explained to us that, you know, he was rowdy as a kid too, but he was giving us life lessons, trying to tell us that, you know, that we're going to have to play this game a certain way to stay out of court. And so we were getting the lectures, the 50-minute lectures, in addition to it, all for free or to teach lessons. And so Mike took these. I don't know anything about what he did behind closed doors or what kind of work he did prepping it. We would just have a conversation, tell him everything that we did, full disclosure. You know, the only person in authority I ever told the truth and it didn't come back to bite me, you know, because I've made mistakes with doctors and everybody, but, you know, we always told Mike the truth, and he always stressed that if he knew everything, he could help us. So we were truthful with him, and he was like, you know, a father figure in a lot of ways. And we showed up at court, and I remember Chenger, Rosowski, they were all sitting up by the judge.
So Rosowski was the principal, and
Chenger
was
the disciplinarian,
Okay.
yeah. And they had a bong sitting up there. And, you know, we're going in like with Mike McShane, you know, thinking like, you know, we got Perry Mason as our attorney, right? And whatever. He looked like 6'4". He looked like Clark Kent, you know, with the glasses. And he was Superman when he got in court. So so we went in and they read all the charges, and Mike said, you know, I move that all the charges get thrown out on the technicality that they were not served to my clients. So what happened was, because we'd been, you know, not in school but half in, half out, and because they had a habit of going to my mother with the diploma and the other stuff, they forgot about the birthday that we
When is your birthday?
April 7th.
Okay.
So you turn 18. So instead of serving us, they served my mother. And I remember, you know, they were like flabbergasted. I mean, the judge was simple with it. He said the charges are dropped. And so Rosowski wasn't happy, and neither was Chenger. And immediately McShane turned to us and said, you go up there, you don't crack a smile. You shake hands with those people, you thank them, and then we get out of here. So, and we would, I mean, I didn't listen to many people, but I always listened to Mike. No matter what he said, I listened to him, especially if we were anywhere in a courtroom. But
what was Rosowski and Chenger's reaction? I mean, obviously they were dumbfounded when that happened. They didn't see that coming, but I'm surprised their attorney didn't Did they have an attorney?
Yeah, I don't remember who was up there. You know, at the time, the only thing I cared about was going to court and getting out without paying anything because, you know, I didn't have the money.
You were already given enough tennis lessons.
Yeah, right. I was, and that was just a lure. I mean, I don't want to pay like a fine, and I don't want to do that. Like, I never really worried about like what the long-term consequences were going to be. Yeah.
But how did they receive you walking up there and?
Well, they had to. They couldn't do much, right? They couldn't do much. I mean, I think, you know, the initial reaction was like, what's going on? But then...
Did they appreciate that you weren't kind of an arrogant, snooty kid about it? Or no?
Nah, I don't think they appreciated that too much.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they cared. It would have been like really stupid of us. I mean, the intelligence level in our family has never been questioned. But the you know, following the rules and stuff like that, that's always been the issue. But again, like if, as soon as Mike said what he said, it was out of the question to be a smart ass. Now, of course, once we got out the door, you know.
Right.
And if we ever saw Rosowski or Chenger again, we'd be saying stuff to him. But,
oh my gosh,
but not in the courtroom. We were smart enough not to say that.
Well, yeah, because you said that he did give you some good advice, right, Mike, about with knowing that you guys valued your freedom very well.
Yeah.
There's 3 places you don't want to be, right?
Well, yeah, we got, you know, that was in one of the life lectures, which I even tell a lot of people now, like a lot of young kids. So the hospital, court, and jail. Because they're the 3 places where somebody else tells you how it works. That's the way it works. So like when my dad went into the hospital, he lays there until somebody comes and sees him. He lays there until somebody releases him. You know, it's like, that's the way it was. And you have to wait for them to tell you what to do. You can't just take them out. You can't just do what you want. And you're definitely not in control in jail. And courts, you know, just as bad. And I mean, and I remember Mike, you know, plan B would have been like a mental hospital because there's a little more freedom there. You know, if we had to like go that route and say that, you know, I mean, you weren't going to say we were crazy. You just would have said that we have some behavioral issues that probably would be better addressed in a clinical environment than in a jail. Because I know he knew for sure there was no way I was going to be in jail. Like, there's no way I was going to thrive in jail. I mean, I couldn't stay in there 6 hours the one time. I wasn't going to be spending like sleeping in a jail. So, and I really never crossed my mind that I would go to jail. I never thought about it. I just thought that Mike would get us out, and I wasn't like a mobster. It wasn't like, oh, I got lawyers. It was like, I don't really do anything. I don't know
you didn't connect. You really didn't connect the dots.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we talking about? I didn't do anything. I mean, what, terroristic threats? You know, 4 out of 5 days of the week, people were like telling Donnie Lawrence he was an ass or something, or people were fighting with him. There could be terroristic threats every day and criminal trespass. I mean, it's not like I busted the door down. All I did was walk up to the door. So I thought they were all like trumped up charges. So. So then we go on.
Time number 3 now. You had
do
mentioned.
Do we have to keep track of the number of that?
Well, you had mentioned that you had a list of, you know, I don't know, things against you in college, right? That the infringements, infractions, whatever.
Yeah.
And something happened at Killinger Hall where you had to pick up the phone and call Mike again. What was that about?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I was probably a little cranky, and they had an RA, is the resident assistant, I guess, that lives on your floor. You know, another authority figure that I never really respected that much, and nothing against him. You know, you probably nice.
Yeah, it's a thankless job being
an RA. A nice kid.
Other than that, you get your own room.
Right, you get a room, right, your own room, right. So which we super glued shut from the outside a couple times too. That got in like that. But so I don't know. He was yelling at me and reprimanding me, and I don't know. He was at the bottom of the stairs, and I just sort of like threw the fire extinguisher from the wall down the stairs. Nothing like, you know, trying to hurt him or anything. It wasn't even at him. And then a couple of things I threw out the window, like a piece of candy or something.
At him?
Yeah, at him, because he was still down there yelling. And so next thing, you know, I have like a whole slew of I don't know, like dangerous projectile. I don't know like how they worded it, but again, it sounded like, you know, I was like shooting at the guy or something, you know. And so I had to go to court, and I remember that judge, he had one arm. So I thought, well, you know, he can't be too happy if he only has one arm. He'd probably be a little cranky, and he's probably going to look at me like, you know, it's not going to go well.
Make an example of you.
Yeah, it's not going to go well. And so McShane, that one, I was pretty much nailed to the wall. And the only way to get out of that was he somehow negotiated that I would pay for the fire extinguisher, and I would take care of the damages and pay a fine. Because I don't know how many times he used this. Is, you know, they're really good kids. You know, they have good parents. We don't know why they act like this, but they have good parents and they're good kids.
He was really a champion for
you.
Yeah,
he was a champion for us, and I believed it. You know, I believed
well, he
it too.
believed it.
Yeah, I had good parents. I believed it. I said, I'm not. It wasn't like I was trying to hurt anybody, including my parents. But, you know, we just found ourselves in these situations, and so anyway, he got me off with like a $600 fine, which I thought was crazy because I'm like, where am I going to pay this? And he was trying to explain on the way out. He was calming me down. He says, you don't understand. $600 fine is great. You have no charges against you. You got off scot-free. And I'm like, no, I don't have to pay $600 or something. So clearly, I still didn't understand
what you were doing.
Yeah, the implications of
Right.
what could have turned out. But that was you know, that was a little dodge another bullet. Let's say we dodged another bullet.
Well, you did. Was it more tennis lessons then? He has a daughter.
Well, the tennis
Sue,
just
who
went
I
on.
know.
Yeah, the tennis went on and on. He had 3 girls and a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
I never did repay that. Let's put it that way.
oh, well, now there is one instance where Anthony was innocent, right? Completely innocent, minding his own business, except for the fact that you were underage at a club. Okay. But he was minding his own business.
Yeah,
and at the Brandywine Club.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, the Brandywine Club in Westchester was a place that, you know, kind of a cool, like, I don't know if it was a disco type place, but whatever, a dance place, a club. It was more a club than a bar. And you know, people would go on the weekends and, you know, like, I don't remember them being so strict with age limitations. And so I was in there, and somebody was like accusing me of looking at his girlfriend, and you know, I wasn't. So I don't know. Maybe I was just like had too much to drink, and like, you know, I was like staring out into space or something, and the guy got it wrong, and so he was friends with the bouncer, and next thing you know, we were kicked out, and then they kick out whoever's with me, and it ended up being my brother, and we got kicked out, and they were like pushing us out the door and pushing us down. And we didn't like it so much, so we picked up a rock and threw it, kind of a boulder, and threw it through the front door. Now, there's another thing that, you know, you might rethink, like in retrospect, right? That would not be a good thing to do, because the only way that's going to turn out is bad. Okay, not only do the bouncers want to like rip you to shreds, but then when the police come, you know, you have that whole incident. And then the particular funny thing about this is that when we went to court, you know, we never really cashed in on the twin thing so much, because we like kind of having our own lives. But if we did get in trouble together and one person would benefit from being the one that was more in trouble or less in trouble,
right?
I mean, we certainly work with each other on that, because, you know, I've gotten Alex in trouble a number of times. He's gotten me in trouble. Like, we just share that. And so, you know, just to kind of keep it even, whoever had to take the fall would take the fall. and in this case, we tried to pull that stunt with them. But the police officer somehow thinks he knew the difference between us. And so McShane said time out and asked if he could talk to the police officer in another room. And he came out, and the police officer said the way that Mike described it to be would be the way that it would go down. And he somehow talked the police officer into going along with it. Now, he knew a lot of judges and police officers in the area. And okay. I never knew Mike to be disrespectful to anybody, but he was very strong in a courtroom. I mean, there were so many times he would pick us up to go to court, we would be late, and he would explain it away to the judge, and sometimes he wouldn't give in to the judge. He just wouldn't give in. Where, you would think that a judge, he said some things to judges, I thought the judge would say, like, too bad.
In contempt,
It's the way it is. Yeah, but they didn't do that. He had such a strong presence, and he was smart.
Sounds like he was well respected.
Yeah, and he was well respected in a community. And, we just felt like going in to court with him is like going in with a superhero. And then later in life, when I've had some issues with my businesses and I've had to retain a lawyer, I really learned the difference between Mike McShane and your typical lawyer. In fact, the training that I had with Mike, I think I could be the second best lawyer to him. Really, because I see other people, I'm like, oh my God, are you like a rookie or something? Mike was so good. He was
He sounds like he really knew the law inside and out as well. Not in addition to being clever and really intelligent, like he really knew his craft.
Well, he had the whole package, like the look. He had he just had the whole package. He was like the biggest, and he wasn't pompous or arrogant in any way too, which is cool. I mean, I looked up to him.
Was there ever a time, Anthony, when he would get that late night phone call from you or your brother where he would say, haven't you learned yet? Like, what was his reaction?
Well, no, he was always strictly business.
Okay.
He was always say, don't say anything, give him my phone number, and we'll take it from there. So he was really good about that. And I got spoiled, because now, I don't remember paying him a dime. Maybe my parents paid him something. Maybe I paid something. I don't remember paying him anything. But like right now, when I get on a phone to a lawyer, it's rounded to the nearest 15 minutes. Every email is charged. And I'm not so sure I get the level of competency that I used to get from Mike. So, I was in a situation where I'd be like, here's Mike McShane's my lawyer. This is the phone number. Leave me alone. And that's how it would go.
Right.
So.
Years later, you met up with him and he kind of shared a revelation with you. What was that?
Well, so Mike and my dad were probably polar opposites, you could say. My dad, was very loose with the way he raised us, gave us a lot of a long leash, and sort of stayed in the background. Mike was very overbearing with his own kids, and especially his son Michael. We used to play tennis a lot. We used to play 3-4 times a week. And Mike would be right there correcting Michael, and he was pretty tough on him, and to the point that there was a lot of tension that we never really had with my dad. My dad just came and supported us in whatever kind of like kooky thing I did on the court or whatever. It never became a bone of contention, where I can imagine that there were a lot of dinner conversations in the McShane house with Mike, because he just is. I mean, this is not a negative. He's very passionate about sports, and he wanted Michael to do well, but he did land on the one extreme with that. And so we were, and we didn't at the time. I don't know if I would have said that I thought Mike was right and my dad was wrong, or the other way, or it would have been somewhere in the middle or something like that. But he did say, and I was surprised by this, he said that he really wished that he was more like my father, that he would have raised his kids more like my dad. And I thought, this is a guy that, I revered everything he said. I looked up to him, and I thought that was a nice thing that he said. And again, I believed him, just like I believed him whenever he said anything. And so that was a nice conversation, and that's how I remember.
Was your father still alive when he said that?
Yeah, and I
Did
told
you
my
tell
dad
your
about
dad?
it. Yeah, I told my dad about it.
What did he say?
Well, he really looked up to Mike. He we've talked so much about my dad. He felt the same way about Mike McShane. He loved him, and he loved him because he took care of his kids, and he also thought that he was excellent at what he did. So my dad really respected him. So, my dad probably said something like, oh, you guys go way back with Mike, boy. He's like that kind of thing. That's the way my dad talked.
Anthony, was there ever a time where your dad or your mom were, or did they communicate this to you, that they were worried about the fact that, you were making certain choices that really could impact your future?
I mean, the only thing I remember is my mother one time saying that she wished I was more like my dad, because, and that was really tough for me to take. They were more kind of the parents that would be the disappointment kind, where you'd feel guilty because you disappointed them.
Right.
Like, they never really told me, like, you're doing this, you're going to go down the wrong road, you're going to get. They never talked like that to me. And that one comment that my mom made was like, maybe I should be like more like my dad, and maybe I should think about this. So she gave me some food for thought, and my dad, he never really said anything. And then in later years, he would say something like, I knew you were going to be all right where that was concerned. He goes, we're a little nervous, something like that. He was very soft about it. There was never anything like coming down really hard, like you're doing anything wrong. I never felt like I was going to get like hit with a stick. Not that I wasn't hit with a wooden spoon, because my mom.
He
is
wasn't
Italian.
a lecturer.
But
he didn't give you
no,
a
my
lecture.
dad was. He wasn't a lecturer, if I can say that word. He was more of a storyteller, But we did say that he didn't hit us. My mom hit us, but he didn't hit us at all. We'd have to talk to him for 30 minutes. We were like, Dad, just hit us so we get the hell out of here. But he'd be like, talk, we had to be like, we're going to have to do something, we go on and on.
Did you have the wherewithal to, because most kids don't, to appreciate his methods at the time? Or were you like, oh, here we go, he's going to start with a story?
No, I didn't appreciate it at all. And now I use the technique in spades. I use it way more than he ever did. And the kids know it, and they like it.
Okay,
they like the story. But it's a tribute to my dad. And
of course.
But I didn't really think, I never felt like I was addicted to bad behavior, and I never thought it was going to mount against me so much. And this sort of, I would say that in the way that I think today is maybe more radical than when I was younger. I have more courage, but I just don't, take the risks.
Do you consider consequences now?
I do. And one of the things that I follow, I don't know when I added this, but my dad took a course at Ursinus College. He took a course on Immaculata, one of those schools, a night school. And he took a course for seniors it was on Stoicism. And he's taken other courses like on Italian and things like that. But he took one on Stoicism. And the Stoicism, one of the big things with Stoicism is not reacting, period. So I've learned not to react.
How do you learn? I want to learn that. How do you not react? Because it feels like it happens before I even know I'm doing it.
Well, I guess my whole life I've reacted to everything. So if I was able to make a habit of reacting to everything, I was going to make a habit of not reacting. But it's a habit. You train for it like anything else. You practice it. So and the other half of Stoicism is what they do is they predict the future. They think about what might be happening. They anticipate what might happen, and that's really key. My dad used it in his business a lot. They anticipate problems. So what you do is like in a normal business, you would say you send an email to somebody to reprimand somebody about what they're doing, right? And you don't anticipate how it might come out, because you're like, listen, I'm just trying to tell this person what they need to do a better job. They take it as a criticism. They come back, they defend themselves. So now you go down this rabbit hole. But if you can anticipate outcomes, and by the way, there's more than two outcomes, good and bad. There's also ones in between. So the stoicism has helped out a lot, and I it's a tribute to my dad, because it was just a conversation we had, but I've made it a training for me, and I've made it a habit, and so that's one thing that's a lot different. And then I've also sort of weaned myself off of the habit of getting into trouble on a regular basis, right? Like I remember Steven Tyler, kicked his cocaine habit by doing a gram of cocaine a day. He kicked the habit. So that kind of tells you what he might have been doing before that. And that's sort of been the way it's been with me. It's not been like cold turkey. It's been like, I got in trouble every day, then I got in trouble every other day, then I got in trouble every third day. And now what I try to do is come full circle with it and use those energies to get into trouble in a right way. So I do the same thing. I have the same thing working in my head. I'm looking to get into trouble, only now I'm looking at it as an adventure. So the word trouble got a different definition.
Okay.
Before it was somebody was like coming after me trying to kill me or arrest me. And now people are coming after me going, hey, can I be part of your adventure? So that's what it turned into.
Oh, that's nice. You likened Mike McShane to Clark Kent and Superman. Well, he thought he was Clark Kent, and you thought he was Superman. What superhero do you relate to?
Well, there's a ton of superheroes that I like. I mean, I do like Batman. I do like Spider-Man. I actually think one that's underrated is Speed Racer. Speed Racer is, and Racer X, and to me they're superheroes. But my favorite is Iron Man.
Why so?
Well, first of all, I love Robert Downey Jr. I love the idea of putting on a suit, right? Like if it was up to me, I would be a superhero that would dress, and this is what I do anyway. I go to my day job, which is tennis, and I wear the same outfit every day. I wear the shorts with the black Tennis Addiction t-shirt. So I'm wearing like a Batman or an Iron Man costume every day. And I think it's a cool idea to have like a distinctive outfit that you wear. And an Iron Man, it's perfect, right? His outfit, it's so cool. And also, he wasn't a great person. He had a lot of issues. He went from doing a lot of things that were not good, and he reconciled a lot in his romantic life. So this guy is not perfect, but he does a lot of good.
Yeah, it kind of, his perception went from self and it expanded.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Maybe that's what happened with me.
Well, yeah, you've expanded, definitely.
We'll have to see if we take a vote if other people that know me believe that. But I agree with you. That's good.
I love Iron Man. I think
you like Iron Man?
think and it's exactly for that reason, because of his journey of realizing, hey, it's not all about me, and I've been turning a blind eye to things. It's time for me to get involved. And when he did that, everything that he really wanted, not all the material stuff, everything that he had been missing, he finally got.
I learned so much from this episode.
Me too. So what's on the docket for next week?
So what we need to do is talk about the actual tennis addiction philosophy, how it came to be, because it is very unique. Another song I like by the Kinks is called I'm Not Like Everybody Else. And everything that I've done with tennis addiction I've tried to separate from the norm, and I've tried to make it unique and singular. And so we'll have to talk about how we've accomplished that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
I'll see you next week.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.